Alrighty, guys. It is Saturday morning, and you're probably wondering, what the heck is Mr. CJ Curry doing here on a Saturday morning? Well, listen. You think I would miss the start of the actual NBA playoffs? You think I would miss this moment, miss this opportunity to help you, to help others with their daily fantasy sports NBA player props? I would not miss this opportunity. And so here I am, live and in living color here, Saturday morning edition of the ever so popular NBA player prop research show. So thank you so much for joining me. Obviously, my name's CJ. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button. Make sure that notifications are turned on. We got about 26 subscribers, something like that, until we hit 5,900. So let's try to go for 5,900 subscribers this weekend. We're going to be talking about all the NBA player props, all the action from today's games and tomorrow's games. So we're going to try and cover everything. Tomorrow's Easter. Probably won't see me here tomorrow, just being honest. So that's why I'm here this morning. I want to help you guys with your NBA player prop research for today's games and tomorrow's games. And hopefully we get some winning entries over on PrizePicks. Now, speaking of PrizePicks, if you don't play yet on PrizePicks, it's a great time to sign up. A 100% instant deposit match still going on over on PrizePicks. Use promo code Curry. You see it above my head every single day when I go live on these live streams. There's also a link down in the description below for you to go ahead and take advantage of this. Basically, you put in $20, $50, $100. They're going to match every dollar, giving you a 100% instant deposit match over on PrizePicks. Speaking of PrizePicks, yesterday was free entry Friday. Hopefully you joined my Discord. Discord's free, by the way. Link down in the description below to join my Discord. I gave away 3 free 2-pick entries to win $100 over on PrizePicks. And then I gave an additional 10 free entries away to Patreon members. So shout out to everybody that won a free 2-pick entry to win $100 over on PrizePicks. We'll be doing more of those giveaways every single Friday. As I mentioned, I call it Free Entry Friday. So hopefully you got signed up for those giveaways. Now let's turn things over to the chat. I appreciate everybody being here with me this Saturday morning. Slap that like button if you haven't yet. If you're just getting in, if you're just getting comfy, hit that like button. Let's try to go for the over on 99.5 likes. That's the goal. I'm setting the line at 99.5 likes. Let's go for 100 likes on today's live stream. We've got Mr. Howell in the building. What's up, Antoine? He says, let's get it. I'm first. You are first. Hunter, shout out to you. Thank you for the super chat yesterday, Hunter. We got Wayne Wicked in the building. He says, money time. Travis Knott says, I'm still on a losing streak, but I'm here. Well, let's try to see if we can land on some winning picks for you today, my friend, and break that slump. Tony Ruiz is in the building. Saturday stream. That's right. Let's go. Jimmy C, shout out to you. Good speed. Mr. Sokol is in the house. What's up, CJ? Thanks for the live. What's up to Patreon? Yeah, shout out to the Patreon gang. T-Bone's in here, another one of our Patreon members. Yo, Big Bank Saturday. There's my man, Zach. Zach, shout out to you. I saw you wanted to talk about some Kevin Durant dimes. I'm assuming you're the same Zach that's in the PrizePicks Discord. Hopefully I'm talking to the right guy. We'll definitely get into those Kevin Durant assist props for you. He doesn't play until tomorrow, but we could talk about those today. King United, thanks for being here. We got Carlos in the building. He says, playoff time. Then right below Carlos, there's somebody with a solid black picture with some kind of like, it looks like Chinese writing. I don't know how to say that name, man. You got a weird name, but you said yo, so yo back at you. I don't know what to call you, man. We'll call you the black dot, black circle, black picture, Chinese letter. I don't know what to call you, but shout out to you. Thank you for being here. King's in the building. He says, good morning, gang. Let's make this playoff money. Everyday Fantasy's here. Good morning, my good peoples. Check Discord. I posted the Mavs and Jazz 100% hit rate props. Let's all win. Let's do it. Michael Palma's in the building. Thanks for being here, Michael. Calvin, I see you. Mr. Ridley. OMLG. He's already dropping some props that he's looking at, looking like Klay Thompson over 23.5. All right, we'll get into that. Jojo Rabbit's here. Rai Po, thanks for being here. Oh, we outside on a Saturday? Let's get it. Let's get it. Ronald's Green, what's up to you? Quantel Smith's in the building. Dropping a Fred Van Vliet prop. We'll take a look at that one. Pimp Paul 69's here. Says playoffs and USFL tonight. Let's get it going. USFL? You really want to talk USFL? Maybe we will. We'll have to see. I'm not so sure what I think about USFL just yet. Leroy, thanks for being here. Robert Ludlow is in the building. Kevin Cernick, good morning, fam. High Flyer 89, what's up, man? What's up? Back to you. Thanks for being here. Who else we got in here? Yeah, that under on Trae Young's assist yesterday, got to give all credit to Desmond. Desmond dropped the under, a super chat on an under on Trae Young at 11 assists. I paired it with Reggie Jackson at 4.5 assists. We did that entry live here yesterday on YouTube. Hopefully you tailed some of you. Trae Young. Trae Young under 11 assists. I paired it with Reggie Jackson over 4.5 assists, and it ended up cashing for us yesterday. So hopefully you tailed that pick. Jeff Live is here. He says, hit that like button, gang, for a Saturday video, Saturday live stream. Absolutely. Tim's in the building. Thanks for being here, Tim. We got the Saturday show going. Okay, Zach, that was you. Or Zachariah. Am I saying that right? Zachariah, you want to talk to Kevin Durant, assist prop. We'll definitely get down to that. Hector's in the building. It's money making Saturday. Agent Zero, it's playoff time. Let's go. Good afternoon from Berlin. Wow, we're going international now. Berlin. Shout out to Berlin. Thanks for being here, Berlin. Chris Smith says, good morning. See Nell how I see it says, what's going on, big dog? I watch every time, but usually don't comment. Just soak in the knowledge. We're here for it, big dog. Well, I appreciate you being here. Bag Hodler's in the building. He says, good morning, chef. Let's eat. Drew Breeze says, almost missed the weekend live stream. Glad to be in the building. Let's get it. You flex, I flex back at you. Thanks for being here. Gabriel Wright is in the building. And we got Darian Felton. He says, yo, CJ, what's good, bro? What you think about the Bojan over on points prop? We'll get into it, man. We're going to get into it right now. Appreciate everybody being here. Ayo, D's in the building. Leaving the emojis, the goat emojis, the heart emojis, the fire emojis. So let's get down to business, guys. Let's talk about today's games first, and then we'll talk about tomorrow's games. I want to tackle the games that are starting soon. It's 11:12 a.m. here on the East Coast. We got a game that's tipping off at 1 p.m., so less than 2 hours. It's the Utah Jazz at the Dallas Mavericks. This game, a very low total, guys, 209 points. Not a lot of points expected to be scored between these two teams. It's a 5.5 point spread, 209 point total. So for the Utah Jazz, nothing real impactful in terms of injury news. It's really all about the Dallas Mavericks and more specifically about Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic is dealing with a calf injury. He is not going to play today. So the projected backcourt for the Dallas Mavericks is going to be Jalen Brunson and Spencer Dinwiddie. You got to imagine that those guys are going to step up in Luka Doncic's absence. But they're going to have their work cut out for them. They got a tough matchup on the other side. Mike Conley Jr., obviously, Donovan Mitchell, pretty good players in their own right. So it's going to be kind of a tough matchup. But this game projects to be kind of a slow pace, low scoring type of game. So be careful taking too many overs from this game. We'll talk about that more in just a minute. The next game, Saturday, which is today, 6 p.m. Eastern time, tip off the Toronto Raptors at the Philadelphia 76ers. This seems like a good moment for me to remind you that there is still a free square up on the board on PrizePicks. If you have not used this yet, if you have not placed this in your entries yet, you should probably go ahead and do so now. It's Joel Embiid at 0.5 points, meaning if he scores 1 point today against the Toronto Raptors, you win the pick. You win the pick. So if you haven't used the Joel Embiid free square yet, make sure you do so. Like I said, he's got to score just 1 point. You could put up to $20 on this. Now, I went out on a limb and risked it all. I basically put this prop in a 5-pick flex entry to win 10 times my money. I am 4 out of 5. The only prop I'm waiting for is this guy, Joel Embiid, to score 1 point. So hopefully nothing funny happens. He should be able to get 1 point pretty quickly in this game. 215.5 points, though, between these two teams, a 4.5 point spread. So another game that's projected to be somewhat on the low scoring side, but hopefully it stays close and competitive and we don't have to deal with any blowout junk. 8:30 p.m. Denver Nuggets at Golden State Warriors. This one looks fun. 223 points, a 6-point spread. The big news here, Steph Curry is expected to play tonight. So we get the return of Chef Curry. From one Curry to another, I have to say that I'm excited for Steph Curry to get back out there on the basketball court. 223 points between these two teams. They've got Golden State as 6-point favorites in this one. 6-point favorites at home. Moving it down to another game here. I don't know why it's out of order, but 3:30 p.m. tip-off between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Memphis Grizzlies. 236 points between these two teams, a 6.5-point spread. This is by far the highest scoring game on today's NBA slate. Lots of points to be expected out of these two teams. 6.5-point spreads, kind of creeping into maybe potential blowout risk, blowout territory, but nonetheless, this one should be fun to target some overs. We got a healthy Ja Morant in there, so you ain't got to worry about him sitting out or anything. The only injury news that's really worthwhile, I guess, would be Taurean Prince. He's a game time decision. Otherwise, looks like everybody's going to be a full go for both sides of this game. So there you go. That is today's NBA slate. Let's go ahead and get down to business here and talk about the props from today. We'll start things off by talking points as we typically do. I'm going to be using Props.cash to help with the player prop research. We'll be looking at the highest hit rate trends, trying to find the guys that have been getting the job done in the scoring department. So let's go ahead and do that now. We'll go ahead and filter out just the last 10 games. We'll look at the last 10 games, highest hit rates for points. And we'll start there. At the top of the board here, we've got Nikola Jokic at 29.5 points, a 70% hit rate. We got Dwight Powell of the Dallas Mavericks at 70%. Andre Drummond at a 70%. He plays tomorrow. Aaron Gordon, 70%. Brook Lopez, 70%. Seth Curry, 70%. So we got some guys hitting at a 70% hit rate, 7 out of 10. From there, a number of dudes hitting at 60%, including Klay Thompson, Bruce Brown, Desmond Bane, Pascal Siakam, Will Barton, Tyrese Maxey, Bojan Bogdanovic, Scotty Barnes, and Jared Vanderbilt. And then from there, a bunch of dudes hitting at 50% or below. So which point props do you guys want to talk about? I'm here for you. I'm here for you. King United, he's already leaving one. He's saying Nikola Jokic under on points. Now that is a bold move. Let's start with that one, though. Nikola Jokic is at 30.5 points. I mentioned at 29.5 points, he's at a 70% hit rate, but we're paying up a little bit here on PrizePicks. He's at 30.5. So let's talk about Joker real quick. Let's talk about Joker, because someone's saying that they want to take the under on Jokic, man. Did you see what Nikola Jokic was doing in the last 5 games? I mean, 37, 38, 38, 41, and 35, and you want to go under on this dude? I don't know if I can get behind that one. Let's take a closer look at it, though. The last 10 games at 30.5 points. He's got a 60% hit rate, meaning he has gone over 30.5 in 6 out of 10. And we just talked about how hot he's been in the last 5 games, averaging over 37, nearly 38 points per game in that 5-game span. We could also take a look at what he's done against Golden State this year at 30.5 points. He has gone over this point prop in 2 out of 4 meetings against the Warriors, dropping 35 and 32 respectively. The other 2 games, 22 and 23, still pretty good scoring output, but not good enough to go over 30.5. So overall, he's got a 50% hit rate against the Golden State Warriors in 4 previous matchups. So we're going to scroll down here and take a look at the defensive metrics here for the Golden State defense. They rank 3rd in total points, 2nd in field goal percentage allowed, 15th in three-pointers allowed, 2nd in three-point percentage allowed, 24th in free throws allowed. So maybe you take some free throw props, take the over on some free throw props against this Warriors defense, and then 12th against opposing big men, centers. Speaking of centers, last 7 games, let's go see how many points per game that the Golden State Warriors are giving up to centers in that 7-game span. We scroll down just a little bit here, and you can see that they're giving up just 19 points per game. That is actually the 3rd fewest point per game total average to opposing centers in the last 7 games. Just 19 points per game to opposing centers. So the matchup on paper obviously looks kind of difficult, looks kind of daunting for Nikola Jokic, but we also have to keep in mind that this guy is no ordinary average center. This dude is a superstar, one of the best players, and one of the best centers in the NBA. I've got him projected to score 32 points, which is more than 30.5. Now, we look across the board, across the industry today, we're seeing him at 29.5 everywhere we look. 29.5 is the number everywhere. So you're paying some superstar tax here for Nikola Jokic, meaning they've got him at 30.5 here on PrizePicks. He's at 29.5 everywhere else you're going to find him. Now at 29.5, we're seeing some slight action under. Like right here, minus 115 under 29.5. Right here, minus 120 under 29.5. So they're taking the under at 29.5. Does that mean we should be taking the under at 30.5? I don't know, man. Never feels good to take an under on a superstar like Nikola Jokic in a playoff situation. So I don't know what to do with this one, but I don't feel good about taking the under. Let's talk about some other points props from some of these games here. I see OMLG wants to talk about some Klay Thompson points. Klay Thompson's at 23.5. Somebody else also mentioned Klay Thompson's points. So 23.5 kind of seems steep for Klay Thompson, especially when you consider that Steph Curry's going to be back. But let's just look into it a little bit closer here. Let's look into it some more. Klay at 23.5, we'll click into him there and take a look at the last 10 games. He's at 60%. So the last few games, obviously, these games have been without Steph Curry in the lineup. When Curry gets back, it's got to shake things up, right? You would imagine that it's going to impact a guy like Klay Thompson. He's been hot. He's been hot over the last 10 games or so, especially the last 6. When we look at those, he's gone over 23.5 points in 5 out of his last 6. We can isolate the last 5. You see he's got an 80% hit rate there, going 4 for 5, averaging over 29, nearly 30 points per game. But what's going to happen when Steph Curry's back, right? One thing that you could do is use StatMuse for something like this. If you're interested, you could go to StatMuse. It's totally free for you to use. You could go Klay Thompson points with Steph, we'll call him Stephen, Curry logs. And you put in a search query like that over on StatMuse, and then you could take a look at what he's done this season in games with Steph Curry, right? How many times has he gone over 23.5? Well, 1, 2 times. 2 times. Now, look, he was working his way back from an injury. He was working his way back from some court rust, so to speak. But I mean, he hasn't really gone over 23.5 points very often with Stephen Curry in the lineup. So I just bring that up. I want you to, think about that. Steph's going to be back today. I don't know if Klay Thompson's an automatic over. I mean, this season, if we just look at this season alone, he has gone over 23.5 points with Curry. One time against the Lakers, he dropped 33 points. And one time against the Bucks, he dropped 38 points. So he's like 2 out of, 15, 20 games, something like that, with Steph Curry this season, going over 23.5. Just be careful with it. Probably wouldn't have too much of that in my injuries. Anyway, let's look at this matchup here. Klay Thompson going up against the Denver Nuggets. Klay, he's going to be your shooting guard, obviously. Denver giving up over 23 points per game, nearly 24 points per game to opposing shooting guards. That is in the last 7 games. So the matchup looks pretty good on paper here for Klay Thompson. He's at least got that going for him. As far as a projection for his points go, projected for 26 points. That's quite a bit more than 23.5. But I'm still a little skeptical. He's at 23.5 on all your major sports books out there. He is a betting favorite. We are seeing the public take the over. That doesn't mean they're right. That's just where they're putting their money down, all right? Minus 120 on a site like DraftKings. Minus 125 on a site like BetMGM. You're even seeing some minus 127 on some of these other lesser well-known sports books. So the betting public is taking the over on Klay Thompson. He is projected to go over. He does have a friendly matchup, but as I mentioned before, games with Steph Curry this season, he's only went over 23.5 points twice. I don't know, man. Y'all make of that what you will, okay? Be cautious. That's all I'm saying. Be careful. Let's see here. What else do we have? What other points props do you guys want to take a look at? I'm seeing some love for Pascal Siakam. Danny wants to talk Pascal Siakam at 23.5 points. Siakam ended the season on a pretty high note. Now, there were some Raptors that were sitting out for Toronto. Some guys that were sitting out. Fred VanVleet missed a couple of games toward the end of the season. OG Anunoby was another guy that had missed some time. So Siakam really turned it on heading into the playoffs, closing out the regular season. So let's talk about Pascal Siakam real quick. 23.5 points. He's facing off against Philadelphia. These teams just played not that long ago, toward the end of the season. Second to last game of the season, in fact, they played each other. So looking at Pascal Siakam, his hit rates over the last 10 games, 60%, meaning he scored 24 or more points in the last 10 games in 6 out of 10 contests. So pretty good hit rate. We look at the last 5 specifically. You can see he's got an 80% hit rate. As I mentioned, Siakam finished the regular season on fire, on a high note. 29, 31, 37 against Philadelphia, which is today's opponent, and then 29 against Houston. Again, these games did not include the likes of, at least some of the games, did not include the likes of Fred VanVleet. He was out for some of those games. OG Anunoby was out for some of those games as well. So it's worth noting that some of that usage, some of those shots that Siakam was seeing probably will dissipate a little bit. Probably will go back to the likes of VanVleet and OG Anunoby now that they are scheduled to be back in the lineup. But let's take a look at the previous games versus Philadelphia this season. Siakam is 3 for 3 at covering 23.5 points, meaning he's gone for 24 or more in every single contest versus Philadelphia this season. 28, 26, and 37 points, averaging over 30 per game versus the 76ers. So they don't really seem to have any answers, any solutions for Pascal Siakam this season. Going down and looking at the matchups, Philadelphia's defense, you're going to see a lot of red and a lot of yellow, meaning they're kind of a tough team defensively. When I think of the weakness on the Philadelphia 76ers, I typically think of the backcourt because I know James Harden doesn't really want to play any defense, and I don't think of Tyrese Maxey as being some lockdown defender or anything like that. So anyway, that's kind of what you're looking at there as far as defensive matchup for the Philadelphia 76ers against the Raptors. Now, Siakam, I'm not sure what their starting lineup's going to be today against Philadelphia. Maybe they put Khem Birch in at center, and then they go Siakam, Barnes, OG, VanVleet, or maybe they put Siakam at the 5. I don't know what they're going to do as far as their starting lineup. We might be able to get an idea based on number fire. It looks like they've got Siakam at the 5, Anunoby and Barnes at the forward spots, Trent Jr. and Fred VanVleet at the guard spots. So it might be Siakam versus Embiid. Do we think Siakam gets in foul trouble trying to guard Joel Embiid? That could be a potential thing that happens. But anyway, if Siakam's spending time at the center position, let's just go see how many points per game Philadelphia's been giving up to opposing centers in the last 7. About 24 points per game. So this is a pretty good matchup here for Pascal Siakam. Now, he might spend some time at the power forward spot. Let's say they want to put in a bigger body like Khem Birch. Maybe they put Precious Achiuwa in there against some Joel Embiid. It could happen. And then Siakam could slide down to the 4 spot. So in the event that that does happen, Philadelphia has given up 22.1 points per game to opposing power forwards in the last 7 games. So all in all, giving up quite a few points to both power forwards and centers. Not really worried about the matchup too much for Siakam. His projection, as far as his points today, about 26 projected points. He's at 23.5 on every sports book out there. At 23.5, though, we're seeing some mixed action here, meaning on a site like DraftKings, he's a betting favorite to go over at -115, but on FanDuel, betting favorite to go under at -118. PointsBet, same thing. They're betting the under on Siakam. And then some of these other sports books, we're seeing action, juice on the under for Pascal Siakam at 23.5 points. What do you guys think? You taking the over or under on Siakam? Like I said, he's had some pretty good success against Philadelphia this season. Kind of remains to be seen. Where are they going to start him? Is it at the 5? Is it at the 4? Not real sure. Could he get into foul trouble against Embiid? Probably, possibly. I could see something like that happening. I've seen Siakam get in foul trouble before. Would not surprise me if that's the case. If they put him on Embiid today, he's undersized, undermatched against a big guy like Embiid. So just be careful there. All right, so there's Pascal Siakam for you. Who else do we want to take a look at for these points props? Looking through your comments here. Thank you so much for everybody who's joining me this morning, by the way. Appreciate you being here. Someone said that they want to take Dorian Finney-Smith for points. Now that's interesting. Obviously, with Luka being out, the first player that we think of is probably Jalen Brunson, Spencer Dinwiddie. But my man here wants to go DFS, Dorian Finney-Smith over on points. Let's find him here. Where's he at on the prize picks board? What's his prop line looking like? 12.5 against Utah? No Luka Doncic? Maybe. Maybe we go Dorian Finney-Smith. Let's take a look at it. Utah, obviously, pretty tough team. Now, what you could do with a tool like Props.cash is you could go ahead and remove a dude like Luka Doncic and see what happens to Dorian Finney-Smith's hit rates. Games this season, games in the last 10 without Luka Doncic. We also probably want to take Tim Hardaway Jr. out of the mix, although he's missed the majority of the season anyway. But we'll take him out as well and see what happens here. And we look at the season view. Games without Luka, games without Tim Hardaway Jr. There's been 7 of them. In those games, Dorian Finney-Smith at 12.5 points has gone over in 4 out of 7. So it's just a 57% hit rate. He is averaging 14.1 points per game for the season. 13.6 in the last 5 games without Luka, without THJ in the lineup. Against Utah this season, we're going to have to put these players back on the floor to see what he's done against Utah. He's played Utah 3 times. He's only gone over his points prop against the Jazz in 1 out of 3 games. 21 points back on March 7th. So scrolling down here, the Jazz defense, we know they've got a pretty tough team. Tough matchup for him. They rank 10th in total points allowed, 9th in field goal percentage, 13th in three-pointers allowed, 12th in three-point percentage allowed, 1st in free throws. So, yeah, a lot of red there in terms of matchup. Now, Dorian Finney-Smith should be starting at the small forward, maybe power forward position. We'll take a look at both of those. This matchup against Utah, going to be a tough one, man. Going to be a tough one for my man, Dorian Finney-Smith. Now, he doesn't need a whole lot of points, but to small forwards, they're giving up 17.3 points per game. He needs 13 for the over, but that is the second fewest points allowed to opposing small forwards in the last 7 games. Dorian Finney-Smith, probably more of the undersized power forward, I would call him. You're probably going to have Reggie Bullock at the 3, Dorian Finney-Smith at the 4. So let's take a look at the matchup against Utah here. Power forwards, only 18 points per game allowed. Again, 3rd fewest. Utah is a tough defensive matchup here for the Dallas Mavericks forwards. Whether it be Reggie Bullock, whether it be Dorian Finney-Smith. Yes, he should have more volume. Yes, he should have more usage without Luka. But the first guys in the pecking order, when you take Luka out, are going to be Jalen Brunson and Spencer Dinwiddie. Dorian Finney-Smith's going to have to knock down a couple of threes, maybe find some easy transition buckets. Could be tough sledding here for DFS. So, there you go. Let's get you a projection on Dorian Finney-Smith real quick. Got him projected for 13.2 points. The betting public, though, they're liking Dorian Finney-Smith over 12.5. They're taking him over. We got minus 130, minus 126, minus 135 on some of these sites, minus 127. So most of the money is coming over 12.5 points for Dorian Finney-Smith, as is his projection at 13.2. So there you go. Some of you guys are liking Dorian Finney-Smith for PRA. RidePo mentioning Dorian Finney-Smith for PRA. That could be a good look. Everyday Fantasy's mentioning some Bogdanovic at 17.5 points. The other side of this game, the Utah side, Bojan Bogdanovic, 17.5 points going up against the Dallas Mavericks. Let's talk about it. By the way, thank you to everybody who decided to spend some time with me this morning looking at some player props. Appreciate everybody being here. Make sure you've slapped that like button for me. We're going for the over on 99.5 likes. We're going to do our best, okay? It might be challenging, being that it's the weekend, for us to hit the over on 99.5, but we have to challenge ourselves. So we're going to go over 99.5 likes. That's the goal here. So make sure you're hitting that like button for me. Appreciate all that. Now, the last 10 games for Bojan Bogdanovic at 17.5, 6 out of 10. A 60% hit rate. Now, I want to say that there were some guys that might have missed some time, and that probably would have benefited Bojan Bogdanovic in that case. Now, you'd have to go back and look at these specific games, see who was in, who was out for Utah, but there was some players that missed time for Utah as they reached the final stretch of the regular season. I think Mitchell was out for a little bit. I know they were resting, dudes like O'Neal at one point. Gobert was being rested. I mean, there were some players that missed some time. Conley, I think, was on that list. So That could alter things a little bit for Bogdanovic. I mean, these hit rates are what they are, but they might be somewhat misleading just depending on who was in, who was out for Utah in those games. So that's something that you can kind of dig into a little bit further. We won't do that today, but against Dallas this season, he is 3-for-3. He has covered his points props of 17.5 in all three matchups. 2 of those games were at home. 1 of those games were on the road at Dallas, but nonetheless averaging 21.3 points per game versus the Mavs this year. Looking pretty good there. Now, this Dallas defense, they're no slouches in their own right. I mean, they're a pretty good defensive team as well. You're going to see a lot of red as far as their defensive rankings for this year. Where they do struggle is against opposing small forwards. They rank just 23rd against opposing small forwards, which is what Bogdanovic is. You got Conley and Mitchell, obviously, in the backcourt. Then Bogdanovic, he's at that small forward spot, that 3 spot. So let's go find Dallas here, see how many points per game in the last 7 games that they've been giving up to small forwards. We scroll down here, Dallas giving up about 21 to 22 points per game to opposing small forwards. That kind of puts them like right around the middle of the pack, down toward the bottom though. It's not the hardest matchup ever, but it's also, again, not the easiest matchup. He needs 18. They're giving up about 22 per game. So there is some upside. There is some room for him to hit the over. Let's get you a projection on Bogdanovic. He's a projection for him is at 20.4 points. Easy for me to say. 20.4 points is his projection. At 17.5, you're seeing him everywhere. All sports books at 17.5. But it's another one of those props where when you start looking at some of these other sports books, you're starting to see some action on the under. But most sites, most of these popular sports books like DraftKings, like FanDuel, like MGM, like PointsBet, they all have him going over. So you're seeing the betting public putting their real cold hard cash on the over for Bojan Bogdanovic today. Like I said, some of these other books, slight betting favorites, some action coming in on the under. But nonetheless, Bogdanovic, 3-for-3 against Dallas, like we talked about. He's projecting well. The matchup doesn't look too concerning in any kind of way. So I think he could be in a good spot. So that one was for you, Mr. Everyday Fantasy. Hopefully that helps you out. I see Darian also was on the Bojan Bogdanovic points. Could be a good look. Could be a good look. What other points props you guys want to talk about? There's so many games. So many games. So many different ways that we could go here for some of these points props. I saw somebody mentioning Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon going up against the Golden State Warriors. He's been playing some pretty good basketball lately. Probably have his hands full tonight. I'm imagining Draymond Green probably will be on Aaron Gordon. But let's talk about AG real quick because if memory serves me correct, he did have a pretty strong end to the regular season. Starting to kind of come into his own for this Denver Nuggets team. So yeah, the last 10 games, Aaron Gordon. Now this is at 15.5 points. We do have to bump him up to 16.5, which is a point higher than where you're going to find him in most places. But when we do bump him up to 16.5 points, he's still rocking a 70% hit rate on his points prop. Pretty eye-opening. Last 10 games, averaging 19.6 points per game. Even at 16.5 points like he is on PrizePicks, that's still over 3 points per game higher than what his points prop line is today. But again, the matchup against Draymond Green, most likely going to be a difficult one for him. But look at all these 20-point games he's been stringing together here throughout the month of March, entering into the month of April. He's been doing a good job scoring the basketball. Now against Golden State this season, it's a whole nother story. At 16.5 points, he has failed to go over 16.5 points or 15.5 for that matter in any of these 3 games against the Warriors. Back in February, played them, only had 10 points. Beginning of March, 8 points. A couple days later in March, 10 points. He's averaging an abysmal 9.3 points per game versus the Golden State Warriors this season. So yes, he did end the regular season red hot. About as hot as any point prop you could think of, right? As far as the hit rates. But struggles against Golden State very clearly here, very clearly. So we scroll down, taking a look at this. We've talked about some of the defensive metrics for Golden State already when we discussed Nikola Jokic. Power forwards. Golden State ranks 11th against opposing power forwards. That's pretty tough. The lower that number, in this case 11, the more difficult the matchup. So speaking of power forwards matchup, let's go see how many points per game that Golden State's been giving up to opposing power forwards over the last 7 games. We got to go down, all the way down to the very, very bottom here, because Golden State's given up just 14 points per game. That is the first fewest points per game to power forwards in the last 7 games. So you're going to look at his hit logs and in his game logs recently over the last 10 games, last 5 games, and your eyes are probably going to get big. You're probably going to start drooling, right? Man, Aaron Gordon's been on fire. But when you dig into it a little bit further and you see how bad he's played against Golden State this season, and these were recent games, February and March. This wasn't like the beginning of the season or anything. These were like a month or 2 months back. Struggled against Golden State, right? Then you look at the defensive rankings here as far as the points allowed by Golden State to power forwards, giving up 14 points per game. He needs 17. It's going to be tough for AG from the looks of things. As far as a projection on his points, they have him projected for 17.1. I would caution you here. Definitely double check this points projection on some of these other sites. You got Number Fire. They offer points projections. Betting Pros is another one that's free. RotoWire is another one that's free. You could check those sites, cross-reference against this 17.1. But one thing that I'll bring to your attention is that we're seeing his point prop line at 2 different numbers on most of your major sports books. Most of them are going to have him at 16.5, which is where he's at on PrizePicks. But at 16.5, we're seeing minus 120 under, minus 125 under, even a minus 140 under. Now, FanDuel, they've taken a different route. They put him up at 15.5 points. So they think a possible point outcome for Aaron Gordon is in that 15 to 16 range, which is less than 16.5. So the fact that they put him up at 15.5, there's a little bit of value there when you compare it to FanDuel. If their lines makers are as good as we think they are on FanDuel, maybe we should be taking the under here on Aaron Gordon. Maybe they know something that we don't. All right. So AG, by far, is definitely not a lock to go over 16.5 points. JC says, prop of the morning to you, CJ. Appreciate it, man. Thank you. Thank you. Please, can you give us 1 p.m. props? Sure. I mean, whatever you want to talk about. We could look at the 1 p.m. props. Let me know. Let me know. If there's any 1 p.m. props, let me know. I'd be happy to help you. I'm just talking about what you guys want to talk about. So if there's a 1 p.m. prop, hit me with it. I'm looking at them. We got them up. We're talking points props. Who do you want to talk about? Donovan Mitchell? I'm seeing some folks mentioning Donovan Mitchell. Darian. Let's talk about Donovan Mitchell. He's at 26.5 points. He's going up against Dallas Mavericks. Talked about Dallas's defense already. They do look kind of tough, right? We've already mentioned Bogdanovic. That was an earlier prop. We mentioned Dorian Finney-Smith. That was an earlier prop. I think I'm liking Bogey. Bogey's looking pretty good at 17.5. For those of you asking about 1 p.m., which, less than an hour or a little over an hour away, I should say. But anyway, Donovan Mitchell at 26.5 points, last 10 games, 50% hit rate. Averaging 26.7 points per game, though. So he had some really hot games in the end of March here. 36, 30, 37, 33, 29, right? But then April came around, and I think with the start of April, the struggles started to happen here. Now, his minutes were down a little bit in some of these games, 32, 32. I'm expecting his minutes to be more up here around 37, 35 or more. That's what I'm expecting, being that it's a playoff situation. So against Dallas this season, we look at what he's done against the Mavs. He's played them 4 times in total. 2 very good games at 33 points. Back in December, back in February. But then the most recent games, he's only had 17 and 12 points in those. So let's look at the minutes in those games. 35. So he played a healthy amount of minutes in that one. 31.8. Not as many minutes as we expect out of Donovan Mitchell. But overall, he's averaging about 34.5 minutes versus Dallas in their 4 previous games. So worth noting there's like a little potential splits situation happening here. The 2 games in which he dropped 33 on Dallas were both home games in Utah. The games where he struggled against the Mavericks were both in Dallas on the road. Today, he's on the road. So let's take a further look at the season splits for Donovan Mitchell at home and on the road. See if he's a better scorer at home or away. 49% hit rate at home. 53% hit rate on the road. So he's actually a little bit better as far as hit rates go, covering 26.5 points on the road. He just happened to have, I guess, 2 bad games against the Dallas Mavericks at Dallas. Now, these were recent, March 7th and March 27th. So, yeah, he went under in both of those. Anyway, we'll move forward here. We'll take a look at the shooting guard spot. How many points per game is Dallas giving up over the last 7 games to shooting guards like Donovan Mitchell? Well, we go all the way down to the bottom here. You got Donovan Mitchell in a very tough matchup. The Mavericks giving up just 15.8 points per game to opposing shooting guards. I don't know how much Luka Doncic has to do with that as far as his defensive presence. Is he guarding the opposing shooting guard? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's Dorian Finney-Smith. He's a good defender. I'm not sure who he's going to be guarding today. Maybe they throw him on Mitchell, being that he's probably their best defender. But nonetheless, Dallas giving up less than 16 points per game to shooting guards in the last 7 games. It looks, again, like a tough matchup for Donovan Mitchell. And the fact that they're playing in Dallas, it's a little bit kind of concerning, right? Being that he's 0 for 2 against Dallas in Dallas this season at covering his points prop. So we'll move forward. We'll get you a projection on Donovan Mitchell. Going to be a ballsy move to take an under on Donovan Mitchell at 26.5 points, being that we know what he's capable of, but his projections today, 29 projected points, which is quite a bit higher than 26.5. We're looking at the different sports books here. They've all got him up at 26.5. Most of the action is coming in on the over. I mean, even as high as minus 145 on a site like DraftKings. Most of these others, minus 120, minus 125 in that range. So the public liking the over on Donovan Mitchell. What are you guys thinking, though? You thinking about taking the over, or dare you take the under on Donovan Mitchell? Let's talk about some of these other Dallas Mavericks here. You got Jalen Brunson. Obviously, will step into a bigger role. I don't know why we don't have... oh, yeah, we do. We do have Spencer Dinwiddie at 20.5. So we'll look at both. Jalen Brunson and Spencer Dinwiddie. Both of these guys, for my money, are combo guards, point guard / shooting guards. Dinwiddie's probably more of a true point guard. Out of the two, I think Jalen Brunson's got a little bit more scoring pop. So it's funny that they're both at 20.5, but I want to say that Jalen Brunson's probably going to be more of the scorer out of the two. I don't think either one of them are in very good matchups, though. Going up against Conley and or Mitchell, depending on how Utah lines up and matches up. But let's take a look at Brunson first. Again, we'll look at both of these guys, being that this game does tip off in just over an hour. We'll look at both. So let's get everything dialed in here. We've got Jalen Brunson at 20.5 points. This season, he's covered this prop in just 23% of the games. But what I wanted to do is remove Luka Doncic from the situation and see what the hit rates look like. So games without Doncic, let's go ahead and remove Tim Hardaway Jr. because we know he's not going to play today either. And then we'll turn the prop down to 20.5. And yeah, you've got games without Luka, without THJ. This season, there's 8 of them. He's gone over in 6 out of 8. Now, the ones that really, really, I guess, matter the most are probably going to be these ones here, March 5th and March 23rd, the 2 most recent games. And why I say that those matter the most is because this was post-Kristaps Porzingis Spencer Dinwiddie trade. Brunson scored 23 against Sacramento and 28 against Houston. Now, we know, those of us who have been playing player props, daily fantasy sports, that Sacramento and Houston suck. Defensively, they suck, right? One of the games, though, included in this 8-game log here without Luka, without THJ, was against the Utah Jazz. He had 27 points at Utah on Christmas Day. Again, this was with Porzingis on the team, no Dinwiddie, a little bit of a different situation. So the ones that we can really say are certified are these two. March 5th against Sacramento, March 23rd against Houston. So technically he's 2 for 2. Since Dallas acquired Dinwiddie with Luka, with THJ out, he is 2 for 2 in covering 20.5 points. But again, against pretty bad opponents, right? So anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at the matchup here against Utah. This season, he's faced Utah 3 times. In those games, he has gone over 20.5 points in 2 out of 3, so a 67% hit rate. Not bad. One of those games he covered was in Utah. One of the games he covered was in Dallas. They're playing in Dallas today. So we'll scroll down here. We've already talked plenty about the Utah defense. They rank 16th against opposing point guards. Let's take a look at both point guards and shooting guards. Dallas, how many points, or Utah rather, how many points are they giving up to point guards and shooting guards? Starting with the point guard position, last 7 games are giving up about 23 points per game. That's not a bad number. He needs 21. They're giving up 23. So that's looking pretty good. Let's say he's a shooting guard. Maybe Dinwiddie's the point guard. Just for argument's sake, we'll take a look at the shooting guard spot as well. Utah giving up about 23 points per game to shooting guards. So whether you call him a point guard or shooting guard, Jalen Brunson looks to be in a pretty good spot here against the Jazz. Moving forward, a projection for Brunson, about 19 points according to the action projection tool. Again, double check, triple check this projection on some of the other sites. Betting Pros, NumberFire, RotoWire, all free. Check them out there. But we are seeing at 20.5 points, betting favorite on DraftKings at minus 120, betting favorite on MGM minus 125, minus 135 on PointsBet. So some of these more popular sports books, the over looks like the way that the betting public's going. We are seeing them at 21.5. So back to my point before. If you think the FanDuel lines makers are good at their job, they have him set at 21.5, which is a point higher than where he's at over on PrizePicks, meaning we're getting 1 point of value versus a site like FanDuel. But at 21.5, the public is taking the under there. Hello to Ms. Ruiz, wife of Tony Ruiz. Thank you for tuning in today on your road trip. We appreciate you being here. There you go, Tony. Got you. So yeah, Jalen Brunson's looking pretty good to me. 2 for 2. It's a small sample size. 2 for 2, though, since they acquired Dinwiddie. Luka's been out. THJ's been out. He's 2 for 2. And it's been against bad teams, but so far I think Jalen Brunson looks pretty good. Now, let's do the same thing with Dinwiddie. We'll basically run it back here, what we just did with Brunson. Let's take a look at Dinwiddie. If we can. If we can. There he is. Let's see. Dinwiddie this season, games without Luka, games without THJ. Make sure his points are at 20.5. Let's just look at the last 10 since he's only been with Dallas for a short period of time. Okay, so March 5th and March 23rd, he went over his points prop just like Brunson did. 36 against Sacramento, 26 against Houston. So we've only got a 2-game sample size for both of these dudes playing together without Luka, without THJ this season. So they both went over 20.5 points against Sacramento and against Houston. There you go. So let's move forward, get a projection. We already kind of know what the matchup's looking like. It's looking pretty decent for both of these guys, whether you're a Dinwiddie fan or a Brunson fan. They got Dinwiddie projected for 17.1. They got Brunson projected for 18.9. So kind of echoes what I was saying earlier. Out of these two guards, I think of Brunson as being the better scorer out of the two, but it's looking like Dinwiddie's projected slightly lower. Both guys are projected under 20.5. When we're looking at the prop here for Spencer Dinwiddie at 20.5. We're seeing him at 20.5 on most sports books out there. We're not seeing quite as much action for Spencer Dinwiddie over 20.5 points as we were for Jalen Brunson. So it seems like the betting public is favoring the over on Brunson's points more than they're favoring the over on Dinwiddie's points, which again kind of aligns with what I was saying earlier. I think Brunson's the better scorer out of these two, maybe the more reliable scorer out of these two. So that's the way it's going down here for Spencer Dinwiddie and Jalen Brunson. Both of them look like they're in pretty decent spots. Mango says, can we take a look at Dorian Finney-Smith's points without Luka? Points without Luka. For DFS, sure. I think we did that. Didn't we do that? I thought we did that, but let's just double check again. I thought we did that, but let's go back real quick. So we take Luka Doncic out. We take Tim Hardaway Jr. out. And then we look at the two games that he's played with Spencer Dinwiddie, with Jalen Brunson. He has also gone over his points prop. 17 against Sacramento, 14 against Houston. So DFS, Jalen Brunson, Spencer Dinwiddie have all three gone over their points props today in just the two games. It's just a 2-game sample size. They have all gone over their points props today in those 2 games without Luka, without THJ. But again, it was against Sacramento and Houston. Not good defenses. So all three of these guys are 2 for 2. This dude, and this dude. Those are probably going to be the 3 guys that step up and score the most. I mean, shoot, we could even look at Reggie Bullock. Did Reggie Bullock go over his point prop? Without Luka, without THJ. Let's look. Maybe Reggie Bullock's getting, left out in the cold here. We'll take a look at him. He's at 11.5 points. He has played, these are the 2 games he has played without Luka and THJ. He had 11 against Sacramento and 5 against Houston. So he did not cover his points prop. DFS did. Brunson did. And Dinwiddie did. All 3 of those guys covered their points prop. So Bullock did not. He went under against Sacramento with 11. He went under against Houston with 5. So he's definitely the odd man out, I would say, amongst the 4 top scoring Dallas Mavericks. So hopefully that answers your question. Let's see. You guys are asked, is there any other points props before we move on? Whether that be from this early game, whether you want to move on to a later game, let me know. Nav Woody, all right, we'll just go whatever. We'll just take whatever you guys want to look at. Nav Woody's asking about Jalen Brunson's assists, over under thoughts. Let's take a look at it. Brunson's at 5 assists. Let's take a look at him real quick. Again, we really only have a 2-game sample size. Brunson in there without Luka, without THJ. I'm going to keep hammering it home here. We've only got a 2-game sample size with these dudes. So let's see what happens. In the 2 games that he played, he had 6 against Sacramento, and he had 3 against Houston. So he's got a 50% hit rate at covering 5 assists in those 2 games. Now you want to back it out. We can back it out and look at the season view here. But a lot of these games were pre-Dinwiddie. All of these games from December 31st and back were without Spencer Dinwiddie. He did go over, though, 8, 6, 9, 6, 8, and 6. But again, that was before they got Spencer Dinwiddie. The only 2 games we have to look at here are Sacramento and Houston. With Dinwiddie, he's 50%. We could also look at Dinwiddie. He's at 6.5 assists. Maybe Brunson's more the scorer and Dinwiddie's more the assist guy. We could take a look at those 2. No problem, no problem. Doncic is out. Tim Hardaway Jr. is out. Let's go to the last 5 games. Dinwiddie's also 50%. 7 against Sacramento, 6 against Houston. So he's 1 of 2 in games without Luka and without THJ. So 50% hit rates on both of those assists. Kevin saying that Brunson's assist without Luka is fire. It looks fire. It looks fire. In games without Luka, without THJ, pre-Dinwiddie acquisition, they look really fire. But Dinwiddie's in the building now, so you got to be careful. Any other props from this early game that you guys are interested in? Dwight Powell over on points. DP. Ooh, be careful. Careful what you say. DP. Dwight Powell. That's what I mean by DP. He's at 11.5 points. He's going up against Utah. I don't know if I trust Dwight Powell for points. He's not the first name that kind of comes to mind when we're talking a points prop. I don't know about you guys, but we can look at it. Versus Utah this season, he has gone over his points prop of 11.5 in 2 out of 4 meetings, so a 50% hit rate this season in games without Luka. In games without THJ. He has gone over his point prop in 1 out of 2. Did not cover against Sacramento. This is post Dinwiddie trade, post Luka trade. Did not cover against Sacramento, had just 6 points, had 13 against Houston. So 1 for 2. Just like some of these other guys, 1 for 2, right? Center position against the Jazz. Utah's given up over 24 points per game. That's actually pretty good, right? He's got some potential here. Not the most difficult matchup. I know the Stifle Tower, Rudy Gobert's in the building. But Dwight Powell has a chance, possibly. I just don't know if he's going to touch the basketball enough, get enough shots up. This seems like more of a guard type of plan of attack, a wing kind of a plan of attack. So your Brunsons, your Dinwiddies, your Dorian Finney-Smiths, maybe a little bit of Reggie Bullock sprinkled in. But if you believe in Dwight Powell and you have faith in him against Rudy Gobert, well, at 11.5 points, he is projected to go over at 11.7. And then we're seeing the betting public on a couple of these books. They're betting the over, minus 120 to go over. But I don't know that I'm touching Dwight Powell for points against Gobert. Just not my cup of tea. We got a couple of super chats here. Let's go to the first one. My man Ruiz says he's liking Dwight Powell at 6.5 rebounds. Now that was a prop that I was going to Powell over 6.5 rebounds with Maxi Kleber out. Kleber is back today. He's at 5.5 rebounds. Powell's at 6.5 rebounds. So Mr. Ruiz, you're liking the over on Dwight Powell at 6.5 boards. Let's look at it. Thank you again for the super chat this morning. Looking at Powell this last 10 games. Last 10 games this season without Luka, without THJ, Powell is averaging about 6 rebounds per game. 6 rebounds per game. Against Utah, he's got one game in which he played without Luka, without THJ. Now, this was when Porzingis was still on the team. Christmas Day had 7 boards against the Jazz. Let's remove the whole Luka THJ filter and just look at what he's done against Utah in the 4 previous matchups this season. He's hit 7 or more boards in 50% of the games. So it's not great. 7 was like the most he's had against Utah. So we're asking him to have like a ceiling type of game here versus Rudy Gobert. Don't know if I love it, man. At 6.5 boards last 10 games, 50% hit rate. Just not looking great. Just not looking great to me. The center spot. Utah giving up how many boards to centers? 14.93. We'll call it 15. So they are giving up a healthy amount of rebounds per game in the last 7 to centers, but I don't know here. That's like middle of the pack, by the way, like an average matchup. Powell for boards, projection, 6.7 rebounds. The public, though, are smashing the under. They think he's going to stay at 6 rebounds or less against Rudy Gobert and the Utah Jazz. So there you have it, man. Dwight Powell, I don't know, man. I can't say I love the over on his rebounds. I don't know if I love that. Our other super chat came through from Mr. Desmond. Desmond's talking about Donovan Mitchell under 5.5. I'm assuming those are assists at 5.5 assists. Boom. Going up against Dallas. He says that 4 out of his last 5, he's gone under against Dallas, going back to 2021. And he's gone under 5.5 assists in 11 out of his last 15 playoff games. Interesting. Okay, yeah, he's confirmed. Donovan Mitchell under on assists. So let's look at that. Maybe he's got a good little point here. He was Donovan. Desmond was the guy that left us the under on Trae Young's assist at 11 yesterday. So let's see if he's got something else cooking up here that might lead us to a winning pick. So we look at the last 10 games for Donovan Mitchell. He has gone under 5.5 assists in 6 out of 10. So the under has been hitting at a 60% hit rate. A lot of his averages here are in the red too. You see he's averaging just 5.3 assists for the season. That's less than 5.5. His last 10 games, just 4.7. Last 5 games, 5.2. Versus Dallas this season, he's only exceeded 5.5 assists in 1 out of 4 meetings. We could even look at last season, which is what Desmond was bringing up. He's just 1 out of his last 1 out of his last 5 games, a 20% hit rate. He had 9 assists versus Dallas back on March 7th. We could even look at playoff games for Donovan Mitchell, which was something else that Desmond brought up. He's just 3 out of his last 10 at going over 5.5 assists. 3 out of his last 10 playoff games. So it could be kind of tough here for the Spider, for Donovan Mitchell. So I could kind of see what you're getting at here as far as taking the under on his assists at 5.5. Looking at the shooting guard position, assists allowed by Dallas in the last 7 games. Got to go down. Oh, where are they at? Are they down toward the bottom? Yeah, they are. They're giving up about 3.5 assists per game. He's at 5.5. So he needs 6 to go over. They're giving up 3.5 per game to shooting guards. So that is a bottom 6 number. So the matchup's not looking great here for Mitchell either. And then we'll get a projection here on Donovan Mitchell's assists for you guys. He's projected for 6. Again, cross-reference this on some other sites. Get an idea of where he's projected on some of these other books. But at 5.5, he's being bet under. Minus 140, minus 145, minus 135, minus 148. The public is not liking the over on Donovan Mitchell at 5.5 assists. They are smashing the under. So, Donovan Mitchell, under 5.5 assists. Could be the move. That could be the move. I like what you're doing there, Mr. Desmond. Gabriel saying that if Dwight Powell goes over, it will be because of transition buckets. Gobert 7-1 and has slow feet, which is why they have defensive struggles. Sometimes I understand defensive player of the year, but so was Dwight Howard. Good point. Good point. We got Darian talking about some Jordan Clarkson points. We've got Agent Zero talking about Rudy Gobert over on points. Nav Woody's asking about Michael Conley Jr. Blocks and points, or are you talking about blocks and steals? I'm thinking you meant blocks and steals, not blocks and points, Nav. Let me know, though. Let me know. But yeah, this game tips off here in about an hour. About an hour. Yeah, Sean, we were looking at Bojan Bogdanovic's points, Mr. Sean Drake, and we were liking the over on Bogdanovic. At least I was. What do you think, chat? Bogdanovic over 17.5 points? It looked pretty good to me. I thought that looked like a good move. So we did talk about that one, Sean, if you're just getting here. Also, if you're just getting here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I'm seeing a lot of new names, a lot of new faces here on Saturday morning. Appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much for joining me. Make sure you slap both the like button and the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified when I go live talking player props, which is typically Monday through Friday at 11 a.m., you might want to turn on notifications too. You just might. What other props here from this game? I'm just trying to pick out ones from this early game because I know you guys have a lot of questions about these. You did ask about the blocks and steals. Nav. We could look at those real quick. All games. We'll go Utah, Dallas. then we'll look at the blocks and steals. Again, this is Props.cash if you guys want to check it out. First month for Props.cash, I get you 25% off. Use code Curry. There's a link down in the description below. If you want to sign up on PrizePicks, maybe you don't play on PrizePicks. This is your first time ever hearing about or seeing PrizePicks. You could also get a 100% deposit match on your first deposit up to $100 using PrizePicks promo code Curry. Link for that down in the description below as well. So yeah, the blocks and steals props, I don't go here. I don't play a lot of blocks and steals props. They're just so volatile, right? Unpredictable. Really hard to predict a block or a steal. And I think the hit rates kind of echo that sentiment when you look at some of these guys. Dorian Finney-Smith, 50%. Who are the other ones that you were asking about, Nav? Michael Conley. Yeah, at 1.5 blocks and steals. I mean, he's at 40%. So I would suggest play a different prop, man, to be honest with you. I mean, it's just so random. Like, could it happen? Sure, anything can happen, right? But 50% hit rate for Dorian Finney-Smith on his blocks and steals. Mike Conley at 40%. What I will do, if it helps you out, is get you a couple of projections on both of the guys you asked about for their blocks and steals. So I got Dorian Finney-Smith. I actually don't have a projection for him. But he's being bet under at 1.5 by the public, if that means anything to you. And then Conley, for whatever reason, don't have a projection for him. Doesn't look like we're seeing really any action on Michael Conley Jr.'s blocks and steals. So, yeah, I mean, unless you absolutely, positively want to play blocks and steals for some reason, I just think that there's so many other props, so many other ways that you could go today. There we go. He's projected for 1.9 blocks and steals is Finney-Smith, and then Conley is at 1.7. So I just think that there's way more options, a lot better options, a lot different routes that you can go. Someone's mentioning Jordan Clarkson for points, 14.5. I see you, Darian, wanting to go Clarkson at 14.5. Clarkson's really a good play when a guy like Bogdanovic or Mitchell are out of the lineup, which is not the situation today. So kind of remains to be seen how many minutes they're going to give Jordan Clarkson off the bench in a playoff game, right? We'll have to kind of monitor that, but let's look at Jordan Clarkson here, because you're probably looking at the game logs for Clarkson in the last 10 and getting a little excited because they look decent. But as I mentioned before, there were some Jazz players over the last month or so that missed time. Guys like Bogdanovic and Mitchell and O'Neal. I mean, they sat some of their starters. So some of these games where he hit might have been games where he stepped into more minutes, a bigger role with some of those other Utah players out of the mix. But the last 10 games for Clarkson, just 50%. Nothing extraordinary, nothing out of this world in terms of a hit rate. Versus Dallas this season, he's 1 for 4. He scored 19 back on March 7th. In that game, he played nearly 30 minutes. I don't know if he's going to get 30 minutes today. 29.8 points, or 29.8 minutes rather, for him to hit 19 points. So, do you think Jordan Clarkson plays 30 minutes today off the bench? That's asking a lot. Who are you going to sit? Conley? Are you going to sit Donovan Mitchell? Are you going to play a lineup of Mitchell, Conley, and Clarkson at times? Then what? Bogdanovic goes to the bench? I mean, I don't know. I don't think Clarkson plays 30 minutes today. He might. I could get a projection on Clarkson's minutes. Yeah, he's projected for 28. So for him to see 30 minutes or more would be kind of tough. So it took him almost 30 minutes. The point I'm trying to make, it took him almost 30 minutes to hit the over on 14.5 points to reach 19. These other games he went under. So he's 1 for 4 versus Dallas this season. So could be kind of tough for Jay Clark to hit the over. Getting you a projection on this one. Clarkson, 17.5 projected points. That seems kind of high to me. It could happen, if he comes out. He's a streaky dude. He can run hot, though. He can run hot. He could get hot and score some buckets pretty quick. But at 14.5, slight betting favor to go over on most of your sports books. So that's the way the money's coming in. It's coming in on the over. They're betting the over on Jordan Clarkson at 14.5. But he's going to be coming off the bench. So it's going to be a matter of will he get the minutes. Zach Glenn, you're liking Jalen Brunson to go over 5 assists. I hear you. Mike Conley or James Harden's assists. What are Michael Conley Jr.'s assists at 5.5? So Desmond was saying he liked the under on Donovan Mitchell at 5.5 assists. So maybe Mitchell's assists is an under. Maybe Mike Conley Jr. finds more assists then at 5.5. We could look at him. 5.5 going up against Dallas today. The last 10 games for Mike Conley Jr. Pretty good hit rate, 60%. Not bad. Closed the season out pretty strong here with some 8 assist performances against the likes of Golden State, Memphis, and Phoenix. 3 really tough teams. Dropped 8 dimes on all of them. The games where he missed, pay attention to the minutes here. The last 5 games in which he missed his assist prop. He only played 30 against LA, only played 25.6 against Portland. But these games where he hit the over on his assist prop, 34 minutes, 33.6, 35.7. So it seems to be in the last 5 games, when he gets the minutes, he also gets the assists. Today, I've got him projected for a total of 31 minutes. I think he plays a little bit more than that. I think he plays north of 31 minutes. Maybe like 33, 34, 35 minutes like he did against Golden State, Memphis, and Phoenix. I think that's probably more along the lines of how many minutes he plays today. So if he gets those 32 plus minutes, maybe we take the over on Mike Conley here. This season against the Dallas Mavericks, he's only covered his 5.5 assists in 1 of 4 games against Dallas. He had 7 in their most recent matchup on March 27th. Looking at the minutes that he played against the Mavs, I mean, he played some pretty healthy minutes here. 31, 30, but just 25 and 26. So the minutes don't really correlate with the output or production. At 26.5 minutes, he had 7 assists. So he needs to be a little bit more efficient with his assists. He had 5 against Dallas, and in those games he played 31 and 30 minutes. So just something to kind of look at. I think he has a good shot at going over, though. I kind of like Mitchell to play more of the scoring role, Conley to play more of the setup man. When we look at the matchup here, it also looks pretty good. Conley versus Dallas. They are giving up 10.5 assists per game to point guards in the last 7 games. That number is the 7th highest assist per game average to point guards in the league. So they're giving up 10.5. He needs 6. So I think there's plenty of upside here in this matchup against the Mavs for him to hit the over. Let's get you a projection. The con dog. The con man. When he doesn't hit his props, I call him con man Conley. When he does hit his props, he's the con dog. He's the dog. But Conley at 5.5 assists is projected for 6.1. He is a betting favorite, minus 120, minus 130 on a lot of these sports books. So, there you go. There's your man, Mike Conley Jr. A couple of people asking about the assist prop. No, I'm just kidding. It's not a couple of people. It's just one person that's asking about the assist prop over and over again. Eric, I got you, man. Hold tight. Listen, it's not life. It's not life or death, brother. But we'll talk about Kevin Durant's assists real quick. He's at 6.5. Some of these folks are trying to get some entries locked in for today, for the game that's starting right now. That's why we're trying to prioritize some of these Utah-Dallas props. But let's look at Kevin Durant real quick. My man from earlier, he wanted to talk about Kevin Durant. So let's do it. KD's at 6.5 assists the last 10 games in which he has played. He has gone over 6.5 assists in 6 out of 10. He's averaging 8.1 in the last 10. That 8.1 is really being inflated by these 11, 16 assist type games. In the last 5, he's averaging 10 assists. And then versus Boston this season, he has covered his assist prop in 2 games versus the Celtics, dropping 8 back in November and dropping another 8 post-Harden trade in March 6th. So he is 2 for 2 against Boston, both pre-Harden and post-Harden. So that doesn't really matter whether James Harden's on the team or not. He's done it with this new bunch of guys that he's with. He's done it with the old bunch of guys pre-trade. 2 for 2 versus Boston. Last 10 games, as we talked about, 60% hit rate there. Last 5 especially looking pretty juicy, 80%. So he's been getting the job done, dropping dimes left and right. For me, typically, when I can't decide on a Kevin Durant prop, in other words, points or assists, what I do is just go to his fantasy score, because he does a little bit of everything. Or I look at the PRA. PRA is another good way to go. So we could also consider going PRA or fantasy points for him versus Boston this season. He has covered his PRA. Just looking at the PRA real quick. He's at 44.5. He's covered his PRA in 1 out of 2 games versus Boston. The post-Harden game, post-Harden trade game, March 6th, he had 51 PRA. So if you can't decide which way you want to play a guy like Kevin Durant, just take something like PRA or take something like his fantasy score. When he racks up a bunch of dimes, when he gets some steals and blocks, he's going to go over his fantasy points pretty darn easy. Pretty darn easy. But you guys are asking about assists, so we'll stay on those for right now. So yeah, 2 for 2 against Boston this season, both before Harden was traded and after. But this Boston defense ranks first in total assists allowed, 21.6 per game. They're first against opposing small forwards. We head over here. We take a look at the power forward position. That's where Kevin Durant typically plays, right? Most power forwards are not dropping dimes like Kevin Durant because most power forwards aren't as good as Kevin Durant. But 2.7 assists allowed by Boston over the last 7 games. That's the 4th fewest. If we also look at the small forward position, they're giving up 5.5 per game. That's a lot better in terms of ranking. That's the 6th most assists per game on average in the last 7 games. Don't have a projection for Kevin Durant right now. I just don't. It's just not here. Let's refresh. For whatever reason. Yeah, no projection for Kevin Durant. So I can't help you as far as a projection goes. But yeah, I mean, just in general, I think I like Kevin Durant as a multidisciplinary type of player, meaning we know he can get his points. We know he can get rebounds. We know he can get assists. He can also get blocks and steals. So for me, he's like a fantasy point play, man. I think he makes for a fine fantasy point play. But if you want to take the over on his assists, I mean, he's 2 for 2 versus Boston. Knock yourself out. Go for it. Let's look at his fantasy score real quick too, Kevin Durant. Again, this is just one site that I use, Fantasy Labs. Fantasy Labs. Do we have a fantasy score up for KD? Well, we can't even take his fantasy score. They don't have a Kevin Durant fantasy point prop up yet. So, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what it is. Maybe they'll copy Fantasy Labs here. Oh, no. They don't have nothing for Kevin Durant either. All right, well, that's tomorrow. Anyway, 2 for 2 against Boston. I don't have a projection or anything for him, so there you go. Official M23 Dog says that Stephen Curry is on a minutes restriction. Steph Curry's on a minutes restriction? I have not heard that. Do we know what kind of minutes restriction, or have they not released that information yet? That could be obviously very impactful. Sethy's asking about first half plays. I don't think you have to go first half for any of these picks or plays or anything like that. I was going first half because blowouts toward the end of the regular season. Games where there, looked like there was a clear-cut blowout type of thing. I don't think you have to do that in playoff situations. I think most of these teams are going to play their stars as many minutes as they can. You're not going to get guys coming off the bench that you've never heard of playing minutes. It's pretty much a pretty tight rotation. Most of these coaches will use a pretty shortened rotation, you know? So I don't think you have to necessarily go first half only on any particular prop, unless you find a guy who, for whatever reason, has some extremely high hit rate first half versus full game, meaning he hits at a higher hit rate first half only versus what he does full game. But otherwise, I expect most of these games to stay somewhat close and competitive. I expect most of the stars from these games to play a full load of minutes. So, Sethi, I don't know that we have to go there. I have not been looking at first half props quite as much for playoff games. So, I think you can go full game on most of these. Mitchell threes. We've got Bogdanovic being mentioned for some threes. Tyler's asking about Gobert points. Let's look at these. Somebody else asked about Gobert earlier. He's at 14.5 points. I know you guys are wanting to get some last minute questions in, some last minute prop info in for this game that's about to start in about 43 minutes, it looks like. Gobert has been scoring the basketball pretty well over the last 4, 5, 6 games, we'll say. The last 6 games, he's been doing pretty well. 5 out of his last 6. Last 5 games, he's averaging 18 points per game. Against Dallas this season, he's faced Dallas 3 times. He's 0 for 3, though, at going over 14.5 points. I think for me, I'm looking for guys who are going to do what they do well. So Gobert, great rebounder, right? Blocks and steals, maybe. Great rebounder. Donovan Mitchell, great scorer. I'm looking to take maybe a scoring prop for Mitchell. Bogdanovic, great scorer. Maybe we look at a 3-point make prop. Maybe we look at the over on a 17.5 points. Mike Conley, more of a facilitator at this stage in his career. More of a setup guy. So, I'd be looking at his 5.5 assists. Gobert at 14.5 points, man. My point is, do you go to a wing joint and order the burger? Are you that person? Like, do we want to take Rudy Gobert for a point prop, or would we rather just take his rebounds, something that he's good at doing? He's been doing good, as far as scoring the basketball over the last 5 games. He's 0 for 3 against Dallas, though. Do we think that they're going to use Gobert in a scoring role today? I mean, I don't know. It's just hard for me to get into that, to feel good about that. Dallas, as far as defense goes, we talked about their defense being pretty tough. They're not very tough, though, against opposing centers. We can look at the center spot over the last 7 games and see how many points Dallas is giving up. They are giving up over 29 points per game, which is the 4th highest. If we back this up and look at the last 15 games, Dallas is still up there at 27.2. If we look at the season average, Dallas has given up I've lost them. There we go. 23.7 points per game this season to opposing centers. But for whatever reason, Gobert's 0 for 3 against Dallas. So if they're giving up all these points, why hasn't Gobert been able to hit the over? So the matchup looks good. I just don't know if the game plan, the offense, is going to run through Gobert, so to speak. But his projected points are 18.2. That seems quite high to me. But he's at 18.2 projected points. At 14.5, he's a betting favorite to go over on a couple of these books. As high as minus 125 on certain sites. So there you go. I mean, you could take a shot on Gobert over points. Yeah, Clint Capella getting hurt last night. No bueno. Not good. Yeah, TJ, I guess my lean would be under on Reggie Bullock for points. Mr. C3P says he took Gobert to go over PRA. Appreciate that. It's good. It could be a good look. Maybe Gobert doesn't have 15 or more points. Maybe he's got like 10 or 12 points, but he's also pulling in 13 rebounds, 14 rebounds, and then getting a couple of assists or something. I don't know. Somebody asked about some 3-point props from this game. Let's look at those real quick. Donovan Mitchell's 3-point prop is at 3. It's going up against Dallas today. Dallas giving up 2.8 3-point makes to shooting guards in the last 7 games. Which, I don't know, isn't a whole lot. You can see where they rank down toward the bottom of the list here. So kind of a tough matchup for him. As far as 3-point makes go, Mitchell versus Dallas this season, we could take a look at those as well. He has hit 3 or more 3-point makes in just 1 out of 4 matchups versus Dallas. So 1 for 4. He has not done a very good job at hitting threes against Dallas this season. So not a very high hit rate for him. Mitchell, he is projected for 3.8 3-point makes though. And he's a huge betting favorite, -180 and -175 to go over 2.5, which is why PrizePicks probably, bumped him up to 3. Hiccups. Jalen Brunson, 1.5 3-point makes. That could be a decent look. With Luka out, we expect Brunson to take some shots, right? So you could go there. Maybe you don't like his points. Maybe you just want to take a 3-point prop. His projection is not great, though, 1.3. We got Finney Smith at 2.5. He's going to have to be very efficient. He doesn't take a whole lot. He'll take more, obviously, without Luka, but he's going to have to knock down. He's going to have to knock these down. Bullock, more of your designated 3-point sniper, your 3-point shooter. He's at 2.5. He's going to have to knock down 3 to hit the over. He is projected to go over 2.5 at 2.8. And it looks like the public's liking him to go over 2. He's a -135. So yeah, I mean, those are a couple of guys. Kleber for rebounds. I'm just gonna pull a projection up real quick. I won't get too into the weeds on him. He's projected for 6.1 boards. It looks like the public is leaning toward the over on Kleber. They're taking the under, -125, -130. So there you go, Eric. Some of these other ones you guys are asking about. You're asking about Triple J for rebounds, Jaren Jackson Jr. Let's look at it. He's at 6 boards today, going up against Minnesota. Typically, attacking Minnesota with quality big guys is the way to go. So that could mean Steven Adams potentially for rebounds. That could mean Jaren Jackson Jr. For me, Jaren Jackson Jr. spends a little bit too much time out on the perimeter for me to love him for a rebound prop. We bump him down to 6 over on Props.cash. And when we do that, we see that he's hit 6 or more rebounds in 5 out of 10 games. So a 50% hit rate. 38% technically when going over 6 rebounds. Versus Minnesota this season, he has played them 4 times. He has hit the over on 6 rebounds in 2 out of 4 games. 8 back in November, 11 more recently in February. In between there, 4 and 5. So a 50% hit rate against the T-Wolves. Minnesota is giving up a lot of rebounds, though. 23rd in total boards, 24th in offensive, 21st in defensive rebounds. So there's Jaren Jackson Jr. a little bit. Power forwards against the T-Wolves. Minnesota's giving up, let's see, boop, 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 boop. Where are they at? They're giving up about 10 boards per game. 10 per game, and he needs at least 6. Doable. I mean, he's done it in 50% of his games, so it's not like like he's dominating against Minnesota. He's projected for 6.1. Projections okay at 6.1. Could be a tie or push type of thing. It looks like at 6.5 boards, the betting public is taking the under. -150, -155, -135, -159. So that's why PrizePicks went ahead and bumped him down to 6. So it might be in a tie. You might be in a tie or push in that case. Yeah, J.A. Conley's assists look pretty good to me. I think he was in a pretty good spot at 5.5. I thought he looked pretty decent for this early game. If you wanted to take Conley over 5.5, I thought he was a worthwhile pick. I don't know. Is there anything I would pair with him? Who would I want to pair with him from the Dallas side? Man, I don't know. I don't know if I'm loving a whole lot from this game based on what we've seen so far. The Mitchell under assist, but you can't pair that with Conley. Like if you're going to take the Conley over assist, then you'd have to take Mitchell and a third player from the other team or another game or another sport. So, yeah, I don't know. What else you guys liking? EJ saying that Jordan Clarkson's going to smack some threes tonight. Okay. Sean wants to know D'Angelo Russell for points or D'Angelo Russell for PRA. D low for points or he's at 18.5 points. Going up against Memphis. For PRA, 30.5. Well, we could take a look at both real quick. Come on, baby. There we go. We'll start with his points. The last 10 games for D'Angelo Russell at 18.5 points, just a 30% hit rate. So not the best hit rates in the world. Last 5 games, though, those hit rates do get better at 60%. He's gone over in 3 out of his last 5 games. We've seen Karl Anthony Towns start to struggle. Guys like D'Angelo Russell, Ant Edwards start to step up in some of these more recent games. Versus Memphis this season at 18.5 points, he has gone over in 4 straight games. 30, 28, 29, and 37 points, respectively. You'd have to go back and look at the game logs for these, see who was in, who was out. I don't know if he stepped into a larger role, why he decided to explode against Memphis, but I mean, he played 40, almost 41 minutes, over 27 minutes in this one. Played 27 minutes and had 28 points. That was a very good game for him. 34 minutes and 38 minutes ended up with 29 and 37. So he's 4 for 4 going over 18.5 points versus Memphis this season. What about his PRA? I'm imagining his PRA is probably hitting too. Yeah. 42, 37, 38, and 48 PRA versus Memphis in 4 matchups. Is there something about Memphis this guy, doesn't like? He seems to kind of step up. His PRA over the last 10 games, just 20%. But has risen to the occasion. Against Memphis. So 4 for 4 on D'Lo's points, 4 for 4 on D'Lo's PRA versus Memphis this season. So there's that. That's encouraging news, right? Memphis's defense, a lot of yellow, a lot of red up on the board. 12th in points allowed, 10th in field goal percentage allowed, 11th in three-pointers allowed, 11th in three-point field goal percentage, 19th in free throws allowed, 3rd against shooting guards. Take a look at the shooting guard spot here. Last 7 games going up against these Memphis Grizzlies. Grizzlies are giving up 24, 25 points per game, about 6 rebounds. So let's call it about 30. And then another 6 assists on top of that. They're giving up about 36 PRA to shooting guards. I say shooting guards because with Pat Beverly at point guard, D'Angelo Russell's going to be more of your shooting guard. So taking a look at both a point and PRA projection for Russell. His points projected for 21.1 points. We are seeing it at 19.5 and 20.5 on some of these sports books, gang. So at 18.5 on PrizePicks, we're getting 1 to 2 point value. 1 to 2 point value. So that's good. I like value. 19.5 and 20.5 on some of these books. But at both 19.5 and 20.5, they are betting the under. They are betting the under. The public's betting the under for whatever reason, despite him smashing against Memphis. As far as a PRA prop projection, I've got him at 33.2, which is an over. And then he's at 30.5 out on most sports books. So I'd probably go points. I think I'd probably go points for D'Angelo Russell. M23 Dog thinks that Memphis is probably putting most of their attention on Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns. Well, that makes sense. And maybe D'Angelo Russell's just low-key creeping in there, huh? Getting his points. Mind that. Kevin saying that his 3-pick flex for this early game, he's going Brunson over 5 assists. He's going Bojan Bogdanovic over 17.5 points. He's taking the over on Michael Conley's assists at 5.5. Steven Adams rebounds. What about him? Well, he should be in a good spot, right? Going up against Karl Anthony Towns and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Let's look at Steven. My nickname for him is Smash. Steven Smash Adams. Because back in the day when I played FanDuel, this dude used to smash his fantasy score a lot. At 11.5 rebounds, you're going to see the last 10 games for Steven Adams. You're going to see a lot of red. He's only gone over this number in 2 out of 10. 2 out of 10, just a 20% hit rate. Against Minnesota, he's 1 of 3. He's got one game where he had 12 rebounds. I don't know what happened here. How did he only manage 3 boards and 2 boards in those 2 games? Oh, his minutes were kind of down. 19 and a half and about 19 minutes. So the one game where he got 27 plus minutes, I mean, he had 12 rebounds in that one. So he did end up hitting the over. So obviously, which is the case with most players in their props, they're going to need to see some minutes, right? They can't get rebounds from the bench. So hopefully Adams is out there for a lot more minutes than he played in those 2 previous games versus the Timberwolves. But yes, Minnesota's defense gives up a ton of boards, especially to the center position. Giving up over 17 per game, nearly 18 rebounds per game. That is the 7th most in the last 7 games. So Adams is in a good spot for his rebounds at 11.5. I know he's 1 for 3, and I know he's only 2 out of his last 10 at hitting the over, but the matchup is what I'm trying to say. The matchup looks good for Adams. As far as a projection, he's projected for 11.1 boards. At 11.5 rebounds, looks like the betting public liking the over. Do you guys want to build an entry out for this first game? Let's build something. We'll do a little live entry together. Everyday Fantasy saying that Gobert at 2.5 steals and blocks is at a 100% hit rate versus Dallas. You better grab it. Let's confirm. Not that I don't trust you, but I want to show the people. What you're talking about here. Gobert's steals and blocks are set at 2.5. Against Dallas this season, yeah, he's got 4, 3, and 3. All right, so we'll include Gobert in our same game parlay for this first game. So we'll take Rudy Gobert, thanks to Everyday Fantasy. Thanks to my man Desmond. Desmond was liking Donovan Mitchell under, so we got Rudy Gobert over. Thanks to Everyday Fantasy. We got Donovan Mitchell under. What else do we want to add? Do we want to make this a 5 pick and just go for the freaking gold here? What do we want to make this? A 2-pick or a 3-pick, 4-pick, 5-pick? We can go as many picks as you want. We'll build it together. We'll tail it together. Nick Jenkins is saying, I'm really liking Powell and Bojan first half fantasy points. I'm going to keep first half out of this. We'll just go full game on these. We'll go full game. Make it a 5-pick? Okay, we can make it a 5-pick. We go 5 picks. We go Mitchell under on points. We'll go Gobert over on blocks and steals. But they're from the same team, so we need some Dallas guys. Let's make it a same game parlay. We want to take any of these Mavericks on their points? Are we feeling good about Brunson or Smith or Dinwiddie? What do we want to do? Drew Brees, you're wanting to take Dwight Powell under on rebounds. Okay. I've already used my my Embiid discount, so I can't. I can't use my Embiid, that Embiid free square. We'll take Powell under on rebounds. We'll ride with Drew Brees on that Powell option. What else do we want to add to this, guys? Got about 23 minutes till this thing tips off. Brunson assists. If it pushes, you still win. Whose assist do we like more? Spencer Dinwiddie or Jalen Brunson? I've been saying Brunson's more of my favorite for a scorer, but he's got the lower number too at 5 assists. Dinwiddie's free throws. Nick Jenkins is saying Dinwiddie's free throw makes are 6 out of 7 when starting. So we think Dinwiddie's going to get to the line? Let's take a look at this. Spencer Dinwiddie free throw makes without Luka Doncic logs. Well, we've got 2 games as a reference point. Spencer Dinwiddie as a Dallas Maverick without Luka Doncic. He hit 6 free throws and 12 free throws. So he's 2 out of 2. 2 out of 2 since joining Dallas. So let's take him. We'll take him over 3.5 free throw makes. You'd rather take Conley over assists than Donovan Mitchell under? Dinwiddie free throw makes is up on the board for me. Jonathan Bishop. Ooh, Royce O'Neal under on points. Where's he at? 6? I'm going to stay away from that. I don't want any props that could push. We're doing a same game parlay here. We're doing Dallas, Utah. Dallas, Utah. High flyer, you're liking Clarkson. Clarkson over 3-point makes. He's at 2. I don't want any props that'll push. Let's stay away from props that'll push. I want clean wins or clean losses. No pushes. Bogdanovic has been discussed for points. Bogdanovic has been discussed for 3-point makes. Christiana saying that she's liking Dinwiddie for steals, blocks and steals. Well, we're going to take Dinwiddie for free throws, so we can't take both. Jalen Brunson for 3s. We don't have any Jalen Brunson in our entry just yet. Let's take a look at something real quick. Jalen Brunson 3-point makes without Luka Doncic logs. So the 2 games that he's played since they acquired Dinwiddie, he has hit 0 and he's hit 2 3-point makes in those games. He did have 2 3-point makes against Utah back in December. which is today's opponent, obviously. So he did go over there. This game back in 2020 at 0 against Utah in that one. Are there any issues here with taking Jalen Brunson over 1.5? One and a half 3-point makes. Finney Smith threes. Let's just ride with this. We'll ride with this. What do we want to put on it? What do we want to put on this same game parlay? I'm not going crazy on it. I'll keep it at like 10, 20. I ain't gonna go stupid on this. We'll go, let's split it. We'll go 15. We'll go 15 on it and see what happens. So if we win, $150 comes back to us. This is the live stream here. Gobert over 2.5 blocks and steals. Donovan Mitchell under 5.5 assists. Dwight Powell under 6.5 rebounds. We got Dinwiddie going over 3.5 free throw makes. We got Jalen Brunson going over 1.5 3-point makes. So you guys can tail if you want to tail. You don't have to though, obviously. But that's what we're doing. That's what we'll go with. Same game parlay. All right. Kevion Chapman. You want to go fantasy score for Nikola Jokic? Sure. He's at 60, going up against Golden State. Let's go Nikola Jokic. Fantasy points versus Warriors logs. Here is what the mighty Nikola the Joker Jokic has done throughout his career versus the Golden State Warriors from a fantasy points perspective. Under in his most recent game at 51.9, over at 69.5, over at 65.4, under at 59.3, and under at just 34.2. So the last 5 games he has gone over in just 2 out of 5. 40% hit rate. As far as this matchup goes, Golden State, fantasy points allowed to centers over the last 7 games. Warriors are giving up 48.7 fantasy points. That's not a whole lot. That puts them down at the bottom, 7th fewest. 7th fewest. So he needs at least 60.1. They're giving up 48.73. 7th fewest over the last 7 games. So it's not looking great so far, right? 20% hit or 40% hit rate in the last 5 games. But I do have him projected for 69.3 fantasy points today against Golden State, with a ceiling of 89.7 fantasy points. So they're thinking, Fantasy Labs is thinking that somewhere between 69 and 89 fantasy points is the outcome for Nikola Jokic. But again, Golden State's giving up less than 50 per game. And he's just 2 out of his last 5 and going over. I agree. Kevin Looney, not somebody that we're too scared about, right? Jimmy C wants to know, what about Triple J? What about Jaren Jackson Jr. for fantasy points? He's at 31. The matchup today against Minnesota, looking decent. Minnesota's given up over 49 fantasy points per game to power forwards in the last 7 games. That's the 8th most. So he needs at least 31.1. They're giving up 49.2 per game. Projection for Jaren Jackson Jr., 34.3. So they got him about 3.3 fantasy points higher on Fantasy Labs versus where he is at today on PrizePicks. He is Christiana, as you mentioned, Jaren Jackson Jr., very good at recording blocks. You get 3 fantasy points per block and per steal. So there you go. No problem. No problem. Do they have a Jaren Jackson Jr. blocks and steals prop? They do not. They know better. So yeah, this game tips off pretty soon here. Dallas and Utah. We've got about 14 more minutes to lock in any final entries. I don't know, gang. We've been on the stream here for almost 2 hours. Unless you guys have anything else, I mean, I'll get out of here. You guys let me know if there's anything else you want me to take a look at for you. Appreciate everybody being here. If you have not hit the like button yet, please do so now. Nav is asking about Rudy Gobert PRA 30.5. I think I like the Rudy Gobert PRA probably a little bit more than I like, his points. I know some folks were talking about his points earlier. I don't know about his points. At 30.5 PRA, he's gone over in 1 out of 3 versus Dallas this season. So a 33% hit rate. Over the last 10 games, he's got a 60% hit rate at 30.5. So that's looking pretty good. Center spot. Dallas has given up over 29 points, over 14.5 rebounds. So you're already looking at like 43. Plus, 1 assist, 2 assists. So about 45 PRA given up by Dallas over the last 7 games to centers. He needs 31. So I think that there's plenty of upside here for Rudy Gobert. His projected PRA is at 36.4. That is obviously quite a bit more than 30.5, nearly 6 PRA higher. And then at 30.5, he is a betting favorite to go over, minus 120, minus 125 on most sites, most books. So I would be saying over on Rudy Gobert based on what I'm seeing. The matchup looks pretty good. I know he doesn't have the highest hit rates versus Dallas, but that was regular season. And the projections are looking good too. Brandon Clark. Kyle Molina coming through with Brandon Clark at 7.5 points. He's definitely not one that I've considered. 7.5 points for Brandon Clark. Do we think he's going to play a lot of minutes? I mean, he's going to have to come off the bench, right? I don't like getting into bench players a whole lot, truthfully, because you just never know. Like, I feel more safe, more stable, more secure with the guys that are going to be starting the game. Hard to really know what these bench guys are going to do, how many minutes they're going to play. But at 7.5 points, he is projected to go over with 13.4 points. So there's that. Plus, he's being bet over at minus 120. Jokic points alone is where it's at. So you're liking the over on Jokic points instead of the fantasy points. He's at 30.5. I think we pulled a projection up for him earlier. Yeah, he's at 32. But you are paying superstar tax on Nikola Jokic, meaning he is at 30.5 on PrizePicks, 29.5 everywhere else. So you're paying some superstar tax if you want to take Joker. Andrew, you want to see my plays? Sure. I mean, I just made this entry with the live stream using some picks that you guys wanted me to pick. And then this is the only other pick that I have in. I'm just waiting on Joel Embiid to hit the over. That's it. There's my picks. That's all I got in, buddy. That's it. 2 picks. D2W wants to look at Siakam over PRA. Let's look at Pascal Siakam. Again, be careful with Pascal Siakam. He's been balling, but he's also been balling without OG Anunoby, without Fred VanVleet for some of these games that he's played recently. So take that into consideration. They will have their full squad. So it'll be Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., OG Anunoby, Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam. So Siakam's usage is bound to take a hit with those guys, Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, coming back into the mix. So keep that in mind. The last few games, some of those guys have been out, namely VanVleet and OG Anunoby. But yeah, Siakam at 37.5 PRA. He's gone over this in 6 out of 10 games, a 60% hit rate. You're going to look at the game logs and you're going to be like, dang, last 4 games, he's been killing it. I mean, he has 42, 50, 60, and 48. Versus Philadelphia this season, he's covered his PRA in 3 games against Philly, 42, 41, and 60. I believe we said that he also has covered his points prop against Philly in all 3 of those games as well. So 3 for 3 on points, 3 for 3 on PRA 2 also. He's averaging 47.7 PRA. Of course, a lot of that average is being boosted up here by this 60. This 60 right here that he had against Philly on April 7th. As far as a projection goes, though, for his PRA, 41.7 is his projection. He is a betting favorite to go over at 37.5 on your different sports books. So, I mean, I don't mind it, being that he has pretty much dominated Philly in the points column, in the PRA columns. I don't mind that. If you want to take an over on Pascal Siakam, just quell your expectations a little bit. In other words, bring them down just a little bit, knowing that OG and Fred VanVleet are in there. I hope that the Jazz keep it within 10. Might be tough, though, with Dallas, playing without Luka. Gardy Gaston, you're asking about Will Barton's assists. Barton the interruption. We're going to talk about some Trill. Some Trill Barton. Where's he at? There he is. 3.5 assists going up against Golden State and the Warriors. Let's pull them up here. The last 10 games for Will Barton, 60% hit rate, going 6 out of 10. That's not too shabby, averaging 4.3 in that 10-game span. Going up against Golden State this season, he is 1 for 2. He had 4 assists on December 28th. 0 assists on February 16th against Golden State. I remember that game. I think I actually had the over on Barton's assists in that one. It was like, what the hell's going on here? He didn't record 1 assist that game. Not 1 assist that game. As far as shooting guards go and assists allowed by the Golden State Warriors, Warriors are giving up about 4 per game. Coincidentally, he needs 4 to hit the over. And then I've got Barton projected for 4.5 assists today. That's a whole assist higher than his prop line of 3.5. But despite the projections, the betting public, they are smashing the under. Minus 130, minus 135. Shoot, we're even seeing minus 141 on some sites. So they're taking the under on Will Barton. Corey Bush is liking some James Harden over on assists. I don't have any projections or anything just yet because the game, I guess, is taking place tomorrow. But James Harden at 10.5 assists. We can pull that up and at least look at some of the game log data, some of the matchup stuff for tomorrow's game. But Harden is at 10.5 assists. He's got a 40% hit rate over the last 10 games, which isn't great, but the last 5 games do look pretty great. They do look pretty great. He's dropping more dimes than he has in the last 10 over this last 5-game span, averaging 13.2 assists per game. One of those games was against Toronto, too. He played at Toronto April 7th, had 15 assists versus the Raptors in that one. 2 games as a member of the Philadelphia 76ers, played against the Toronto Raptors. In those games, he had 8 assists in one, 15 like we just talked about in the other. Overall, just 1 for 3 against the Raptors. When we look at the assists allowed per game by the Raptors to point guards, they're giving up over 10 per game. So that bodes well for Harden. And they're not giving up a super high average as far as assists allowed to shooting guards, but as far as where they rank, they are one of the highest ranking teams in assists allowed per game to shooting guards. So both guard spots getting plenty of assists against Toronto. And then as far as the projection goes on Harden, 12.1 is his projected assist total. And then at 10.5 assists, most of the places that we're seeing him, they're taking the under. We are seeing some action on the over on some of these more lesser known, more obscure sports books. So, Harden plays tonight. Okay, sorry about that. I do have projections for Harden. Who was it that I was looking up earlier? Maybe it was some game from yesterday. Tomorrow. I'm losing my mind. Might have been one of these guys. I couldn't pull a projection for somebody earlier, but it was Durant. That's what it was. Do they have Durant projections up? No, they still don't. Fantasy Labs, they're holding out on these Durant projections. Somebody was asking about Durant's assists. Yeah. Maybe it was just Kevin Durant that I couldn't pull up for whatever reason. Anyway. Yeah, 76ers play tonight. You right. Ja. You like Ja's assist tonight? Let's look at him. 7.5 going up against Minnesota, the T-Wolves. The last 10 games for Ja, he's missed a little bit of time between March 18th and April 9th. He had some days off, we'll call it, some time off. Over the last 10, though, 40% hit rate. Against Minnesota, he is 2 for 4. 50% hit rate. Not too bad. Not too shabby. Speaking of Minnesota, as far as point guards and assists allowed per game by Minnesota, they're giving up 10.9 per game to point guards in the last 7 games. That's the 5th most, nearly 11 assists per game allowed. So I do like that. I do like the matchup for Ja. Projected for 7.3. At 7.5, we're seeing a lot of the public taking the under on Morant. So 50% hit rate against Minnesota this season, but the DVP, the matchup, it looks good. It looks real good. So I can get behind that, Mr. M23 dog. Sean Vega's asking about Draymond Green for assists. Is it Dre Day? 7.5 dimes. Going up against Denver. Whew. Let's look it up. Draymond Green, the last 10 games, 7.5 assists. Wow, he is 1 for 10. Are you wanting to take the over on this or under, my friend? Sean? He did not clarify, really. But it looks like, if you look at the last 10 games, that maybe we should be thinking more about the under than the over, right? Just a 10% hit rate. Not going over 7.5 assists very often here. Against Denver this season, no previous game logs against the Nuggets. We can go back to last season and take a look at that. 7, and then out of nowhere, he has 19 assists versus Denver back on April 23rd, almost exactly a year ago. Interesting. You can also look at the playoff logs for Draymond Green. Again, this was last season. 2 playoff games. He had 8 against LA, 10 against Memphis. That's kind of weird. I don't know if I trust that. But yeah, last 10 games have not been good to Draymond Green as far as going over 7.5 assists. Power forwards against the Denver Nuggets. How many assists are the Nuggets allowing to the power forward spot? 4.8. So about 5. So the average isn't going to look great when you compare it to the fact that he needs 8 assists. But where they rank is what really matters. And in this case, it is a top 10 most giving defense, most giving team when it comes to the assist category. Malcolm saying, don't touch Draymond Green. If Steph comes back, he could for sure hit that assist prop. Well, let's take a look at that. Let's see what you talking about. Draymond Green assists with Stephen Curry logs. These are all from this season. So this should be about roughly 25 games. We can just look at the last 5 real quick. The last 5 games in which he's played with Steph Curry. His minutes were down for a lot of these games. But he's only gone over 7.5 assists in 1 out of 5. He had that game against Cleveland where he, that controversial game where he played 0 minutes or whatever it was. Somehow he stepped off the floor or got ruled out or whatever. Then he had this game, 20 minutes, 22 minutes. So we kind of throw those out. Let's go back a little bit further here. 13, 10, 9, 10, 8. So he's got some nice little hits in there. I mean, I don't know. It could go either way. Like you said, it just really depends on Curry being in or out. Melton at 2.5 assists needs a look. D'Anthony Melton? D-A-M? That's damn. D'Anthony Melton? Let's look at him. Well, let's refresh Props.cash here. Melt Dog. Come on now. There he is. There he is. Assists for Melton, 2.5. He's at 3.5 by default here on Props.cash, but when we bump him down to 2.5, you can see he's gone over in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These games are without Ja Morant, most of them. I think 4 out of 5 are without Morant. So I'd say be careful with that. Like if we take Ja Morant off of here, I think we're going to see that a lot of these recent games, these 4 games that you're seeing most recently in his game logs were without Ja. So just be careful. Obviously, Ja's back. So it might be a little harder for Melton. He did have 5 against Boston with Ja. But I would imagine that his hit rates are significantly worse with Morant being back. But Minnesota is 27th rank in total assists allowed. I think Melton's more of a shooting guard, so we'll look at the shooting guard spot. Timberwolves, as far as assists given up to shooting guards, 5.3. They're giving about 5.3. Melton would need 3 to hit the over. And then Melton's projections are at 2.3. The public is actually betting the under on Melton at 2.5. So they're not liking, the public is not liking Melton to go over 2.5 assists. Jokic, the Utah game is off the board. I believe it has started at this point. Yes, it has. Let's see. My man M23 Dog wants to talk about some Joker assists at 7.5. Let's look at him. So he's at 7.5. You look at the last 10 games for Joker. He has gone over 7.5 in 4 out of 10 versus Golden State this season. He's hit the over in 3 out of 4. Got that 75% hit rate, averaging 8.8 dimes per game against the Warriors this season. Centers against Golden State. The Warriors are giving up 2.3 assists per game. That is the 6th fewest. But, of course, this is one of the best passing big men in the NBA, right? So we have to factor that in. So maybe he doesn't hit 8, but mean, he could have himself an above average game. I don't expect him to be held down to 2.3 assists is what I'm trying to tell you. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Jokic projection for his assists, 9.4. At 7.5, not seeing a whole lot of line movement, not seeing a whole lot of action here between these guys. The only site that's really seeing anything significant is PointsBet, where they're betting the under. What's up, Mr. Legends? Hello to you. Thanks for being here. Give me 100 Google code. Don't know what that means, my dude. Gotta be honest. I don't know what give me 100 Google code mean. Sounds like a scam to me, though. Don't talk to that guy. He's on something else. We don't trust you, Mr. Legends. No hackers. No hackers in the stream. What's up, Sethi? Long time no see. Let's cash. Let's check in on this game real quick. I'm wondering what's going on, man. What we got going on in this game? Has it started? I don't know if it's exactly tipped off yet. Doesn't look like it. Looks like we're still waiting for tip-off. Okay. You guys let me know. Kevon Looney is locking Jokic up. Oh, yeah, right. Anthony Edwards over on points. Anthony Edwards over on points. Yeah, probably. I mean, that sounds like a good play, right? Ant, 22.5. Let's pull him up on Props.cash. Last 10 games for Anthony Edwards at 22.5 points. He has gone over in 50% of his games. 5 out of 10. He's averaging 23.5 points per game in his last 10. The last 5 games have been pretty good. He's averaging 27.6. We've seen him go for 30, 33, 49. Against Memphis, he has gone over his points prop in 3 out of 4 games. Not sure what happened on February 24th. Did he get hurt? I mean, no, he played 31.7 minutes. Just didn't really have a good game against Memphis. So D'Angelo Russell's 4 for 4 and going over his points prop. Anthony Edwards is 3 for 4. So both of the guards or wings for the Minnesota Timberwolves have done a good job against Memphis this season at going over their points props. Edwards is probably most likely best suited as a small forward as far as how we classify him. The Memphis Grizzlies giving up about 21.4 points per game to small forwards. That puts him down toward the bottom of the list. Yeah, game is taking forever to start. I was wondering, I thought maybe it would have started by now, but, you know, when it's a nationally televised game, they got to make sure that, you know, they're doing all their little stuff, promotions and commercials. And anyway, Ant Edwards is projected for 23.5 points. At 22.5 points, he is a betting favorite to go over on most of your sports books. So, there you go. Hey, the game started. There we go. Gobert already getting to the free throw line. I see you. I see you. We got Dinwiddie with a little floater out there. Reggie Bullock already pulling in a steal. There goes Conley. All right, all right. We got some game action going on here. Gobert snatching a board. Got Brunson missing a shot. Gotta love that. I don't even watch sports anymore. This is how I watch sport. I read sports. If anybody asks me, hey, did you watch that game last night? No, but I read about it. I read it in real time. I sit here and watch these damn game logs, these play-by-play logs. It's pretty cool, though. Yeah, this game is not expected to be very high scoring, so yeah. King United says, I do the same thing. Yeah. No, I didn't watch the game. I read it. I read the game in real time. I've memorized a lot of words like defensive rebound and jumper. D'Lo versus Memphis. Yeah, Sethi, we talked about him. He's 4 for 4 in covering both his points and PRA props versus the Grizzlies. He's in a good spot. I'd probably say take the over on him. Boy, I'm seeing a whole lot of misses and a whole lot of rebounds being snatched up here. Most of them being grabbed by Rudy Gobert, huh? Sheesh. Need these dudes to start making some shots. What did we take on this game again? The same game parlay. We had Gobert over blocks and steals. We have Mitchell under on assists, Powell under on rebounds, Dinwiddie over on free throws, and Brunson over on three-point makes. All right. Just had to remind myself. Gobert's line for what? Rebounds? What was it, gang? Was it 13 and a half? Maybe it was 14 and a half. These boys need to start making some shots. Stones is saying that D'Angelo Russell's first half points were looking real good too. Gobert was at 14 and a half rebounds. Well, there's a whole lot of rebounds going on right now. Hopefully Dwight Powell doesn't find too many of them since we took the under on his boards. Hey, somebody scored. It's a sight for sore eyes. Yeah, Gobert's already got 3 boards. A lot of these guys pulling in some boards. Conley representing with 4 points early on, leading the way for Utah. 2 points for Spencer Dinwiddie. Powell, just 1 board. Let's keep it that way. Let's keep Dwight Powell quiet, right? Jalen Brunson with a 5-foot shot. We need Jalen Brunson to make some 3-point shots. That's what we need. That's what we're looking for. It's a game cast. Okay, cool. Yeah, game cast. That's a move too. Might go under on Jordan Clarkson for his 7.5 second half points. Okay. Got a first time out of the game, 7 minutes in. Yeah. Stones, we need Jalen Brunson to hit 2 threes. For sure. For sure. I'm just going to hang out on stream all day. Screw it. We'll just hang out, stream all day. Read about these games as they come to fruition. We don't watch sports. We read sports. Dorian Finney-Smith on blocks and steals. Not looking good. What does that mean? Are we giving up on... Oh, no, he's already got 1. There you go. Yeah, he's already got 1. Not looking too good already. Well, he's already got 1. You gonna play some Warzone? Shit, I'll stream some Warzone. And then we'll sit here and let these games play out. I'll just stay here all day. Oh, you took the under on Dorian Finney-Smith. I got you. Well, that's all right. I mean, sure, he's got 1 early steal, but, you know. Maybe he'll just go cold. These blocks and steals, though, are crazy. Crazy hard to predict. So, yeah, early on, on this game, it looks like we've already got, for first quarter, Jalen Brunson, 4 points, 2 boards. Dinwiddie with 2. He's already picked up a personal foul. Not really seeing anything out of Dorian Finney-Smith in terms of points. Nothing from Bullock, nothing for Powell. We took the under on Powell's rebounds. He's got 1 so far. And then for the Jazz, Conley, surprisingly, leading the way early with 4 points. Gobert with 2 and 3 rebounds. Bogdanovic with 2 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist, doing a little bit of everything. Donovan Mitchell off to an 0-4-3 start. Goose eggs across the board, has not recorded a point, a rebound, an assist, hasn't recorded anything yet. So, Donovan Mitchell, kind of a quiet start to the game. All right, gang, I'm going to get out of here. Royce O'Neal doing nothing like always. Yeah, ain't that the truth? I'm going to get out of here, guys. Hopefully today, though, our live stream helps some folks win some money, find their way to the green. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Slap the like button if you're still watching on your way out. We will catch you on Monday. Till then, good luck. Peace.